raising the minimum wage often sort of exaggerate the consequences of lifting that level up. They talk about the disemployment effects of raising the minimum wage, that if the wage goes up, there will be fewer jobs, and then we'll have more unemployment, and then we're going to be back where we started, and it's just a terrible idea, so we should just stop. In reality, there is no consistent evidence in aggregate employment data that any such effect of disemployment actually exists. It's kind of a rhetorical tool that people use to make it seem scarier to make this policy change than it actually needs to be. So there's no evidence that unemployment will increase if we raise the minimum wage to a standard that is higher, that doesn't require people to decide between paying bills, that keeps students in the province, that makes it easier to support families who are perhaps in other countries and eases tensions in your workplace. That's not necessarily going to cause unemployment, and that's a really important takeaway, because that's one of the arguments that people who are not necessarily very informed about this issue, but who care about the economics of the province and who are perhaps just nervous about the prospect of having a fairer distribution of wealth, because they worry about the consequences. But there's research, there is no body of research that is that can be taken as